Anyone wishing to address the Board of County Commissioners, please step forward, identify yourself for the record. Let's see, how much should we give them? A minute? Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. You waited all day. We appreciate it.
I waited 8.5 hours.
We do appreciate it.
Now, I'm going to tell you, the laws of war do not and cannot coexist with our Bill of Rights. It's not possible. There is no guarantee that any future president, now that is granted these powers, will not abuse them. I mean, all you have to do is look through history. When you grant this kind of a power to the executive branch, which was never supposed to happen this way, we're all scared, okay, terrorism. Now we're like giving up all of our rights.
Item number 38 is to discuss a resolution opposing the indefinite detention provisions of the National Defense Authorization Act and direct staff accordingly.
I didn't think there were this many people left in the audience. At this time, I'll open the public comment. Come on down. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes.
Good morning, distinguished members of the County Commission. My name is Q Rose, and I come before you today, foremost as a student of history, and second most as a student of the University of Las Vegas, Nevada. Grave are the circumstances in which I address all of you today, yet for all of the uncertainty and dismay, I stand here before you as a free man in a democracy, for the people, by the people, and of the people. Celebrate not, however, the fire of our republic, for it is but an ember of our former flame. Our country is dying. However, our country is dying, a culture of apathy and disinterest. These things are plagues to a prospering nation. And while our country lies broken and in ruin, we make sacrifices on the altar of consumerism, misplace our values, and bear a false sense of loyalty in our nationalism. Where once a man was judged by the fruit of his labors and the actions of his character, he is now judged by what he owns, what he earns, and his ability to fit in with social groups. In a society that has forsaken individuality for conformity, we have lost that quintessential attribute that has made us a country of special significance. While we may not possess a singular sense of nationality, akin to that of England or France, it's our different senses of perception and ideology that allow us to expand democracy in ways that have never been attempted before in history. Yet as our country enters its 238th year, a looming and ever-present force threatens to kill our precious republic in its infancy. Tyranny has always served as the antithesis of democracy and continues to even today. However, today that tyranny is ever so more subtle. It comes not as a cry, but as a whimper, in the form of a simple act of legislation. And while this tyranny is being perpetrated, our media is consuming itself with the lies of the unofficial aristocracy and the praising of an administration ready to put its own people in chains. The National Defense Authorization Act is nothing less than a declaration of war against the American people, claiming the United States is just another battleground in the growing war and the increasingly frivolous and misguided war on terror. Under the NDAA, Americans found to be terrorists, associates of terrorists, or terrorist sympathizers may be imprisoned indefinitely without trial or due process. The most horrifying part of this policy being that nowhere in the NDAA does it give a clear and concise definition of terrorism, meaning that the cases in which this policy can be used is up to the discretion of the federal government. Freedom of speech, political activism, and violent acts against our government. These things will become one and the same if this bill is to be passed. Just as the Federal Reserve Act and the IRS Act were signed into law quietly during a Christmas congressional break by Woodrow Wilson, the NDAA Act has received little to no media attention and therefore very little resistance from the American people. Only now, instead of placing immediate debt on our currency and indenturing the American people financially, the NDAA seeks to physically restrain those who do not act in accordance with the will and desires of the United States government. All, of course, under the banner of national interest. I have come before you today to implore you, no, to beg you, to stop this madness before America is destroyed forever. Thomas Jefferson famously said to remain vigilant. Too many have hidden the truth, and the light of our liberty dims with each passing day. We must not allow ourselves, like the Romans of antiquity, to be plunged into an empirical tyranny under the guise that one man or entity may speak on behalf of a nation. I leave these things with you in the hope that democracy and freedom may not become relics of the past, but promises of our future.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Let me ask for a show of hands. Is everyone here speaking in favor of item number 38? Is anyone not speaking? Is anyone speaking in opposition to item 38? Okay, just for the record, we will not be taking a vote on item number 38 today. This is an introduction of the resolution. We'll be bringing this back in 2 weeks to take the formal vote on this item. Now, if we want to get one or two, if everybody wants to speak, I'm going to allow everybody to speak. But if we're not going to be able to take action anyway today, so it's going to be up to the people in the line, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is everybody still going to speak? Okay.
Can all of you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, Commission. My name is Adam Sanacor. I am a student at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Commission, allow me to give you a brief synopsis of why I'm speaking here today. In 2011, President Obama passed the NDAA without warning or reason. Much like the secret resolution that created the Federal Reserve without any debate under the Wilson administration in 1913, the people of this nation were caught off guard by the executive action that gave the NDAA life. Why? Because this bill gives our government the power to turn America into a despotistic regime that greatly reflects the dystopian society that great authors such as George Orwell warned us about in books such as 1984. Under NDAA, the federal government has the power to lock away anyone they want without any care for that individual's right to due process. With NDAA, the government is judge and jury, and the verdict will always be guilty. Sadly, this is only the beginning. As Senators McCain and Graham pointed out days after the passage of NDAA, the government is granted the authority to apply the measures of this law to Americans. NDAA literally gives our government the power to strip away the constitutional provisions of the Fourth Amendment and due process from the very people who live in a country that was founded on the principles of liberty, voluntarism, and self-rule. It's no wonder that after the passage of this legislation, Congressman Justin Amash stated on air that the NDAA was the single most unconstitutional act that he had ever seen. Commission, if you do not believe that the federal government would ever attempt to use this law to label Americans traitors that should be locked away, consider this. Since 2009, acts have been passed that have habitually labeled liberty activists as extremists. 2009's MIAC, 2010's DOJ report labeling constitutionalists as extremists, and military reports that define protest and activism as forms of low-level terrorism. Technically, if the latter of the items I mentioned was ever upheld, the speech that I am now giving could be deemed treasonous. To the Commission members who are seeking re-election in 2014, I urge you now to consider voting on this measure. If we are going to work to restore the principles of liberty in this country, we cannot rely on the centralized nature of the state to do it. Rather, we have to embrace the principles of the 10th Amendment and state nullification, thus allowing us to avoid any attempt by the statists in Washington to treat us as enemies. Before I finish my speech, I would like to quote Ludwig von Mises, one of the modern founders of the Austrian School of Economics. He himself understood the nature of evil from governments. He lived through the terrors of Nazi Germany, and he said in a famous quote that man should never give in to evil. I am asking you to take this quote to heart and to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much again, gentlemen and ladies of the Commission. The seminal organic progenitor or father of the National Defense Authorization Act, also known as the Strom-Thurmond NDAA Act of 1961, 10 United States Code 2358, is nothing but a reiteration and a escalation of the Alien Sedition Act, which was formally declared unconstitutional. It is an abomination. It's merely a demonic conspiracy to give the government, under the guise of protecting us, whatever they deem to be necessary and proper to do to us in the interest of the national security by the NSA and the National Defense Authorization Acts, the Department of Defense, which uses many different funds to funnel money to the EPA, to all these different agencies of government as a black ops budget to conspire against the people to destroy us. It's insidious to deem every American citizen or American person or individual who has a love for this country and the precepts that was conceived under a terrorist. Yet this administration has done precisely that. And under this demonic seed, the NDAA, they can gather each one of us up under any pretense of suggestion of conspiring against the government, whether it be by telling the truth or any act that they deem to be controversial, and whisk us away and put us in incarceration facilities and do whatever they wish by any means possible. It's an absolute insult to common sense and integrity and the Creator's plan for this country for these demons to convert us all to terrorists so they can lock us up and perpetuate their communist agendas to take over this country with the New World Order, which is OWN backwards. This is a model by the Fourth Reich. Thank you very much for your courtesy and allowing me to predict these things to you and suggest, but this is absolutely something this council should protect the people of this city that lives here and contributes to each and every one of your pay. And if you kill us all off, there won't be as much coming in to line your pockets with. So I suggest you might consider it may have some merit and vote for this particular bill to protect us. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is George Hicks from Las Vegas, Nevada. I appreciate you letting me speak this morning. I'm a pretty active Republican, and one thing about this issue with the NDAA is it's definitely bipartisan. This did not start with Barack Obama. It started with a Republican president. So we really need to basically tell the federal government that, you know, we're not willing to sacrifice our liberties for safety, because as a famous, I think it was George Jefferson said, Thomas Jefferson said, if you sacrifice one, you give up both. So I strongly urge you to get this on to where you can vote for it, and definitely vote for this item, because this is really important. And I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, you guys. Thank you again. My name is Daphne Lee. As you guys know, I'm the Nevada State Director of PANDA and also the Clark County Coordinator. And thank you so much for allowing this to be heard on the agenda. And I really encourage all of you to vote for it and join the Las Vegas City Council in standing up for the rights of my hometown, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm going to read to you today a letter that was sent out by 40 generals and admirals to representatives in Congress last year who failed to repair these egregious provisions. Dear Representative, the date is May 16, 2012. Dear Representative, we are members of a nonpartisan group of 40 retired generals and admirals concerned about the U.S. policy regarding detention and treatment of persons held by our armed forces. We write to urge you to support the Smith-Amash Amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act for NDAA for the 2013 fiscal year. The Smith-Amash Amendment would roll back controversial and ill-advised detention provisions passed into law last year by banning indefinite detention within the United States and repealing a policy that mandates military custody for foreign terrorist suspects. As retired generals and flag officers, we do not make this request lightly. However, we strongly believe that the sound national security policies depend on faithful adherence to the rule of law. Though it is lawful for the military to detain those engaged in hostilities in an armed conflict, the armed forces should not supplant our law enforcement and intelligence agencies at home. Those detained in the United States should not be held indefinitely without charge or trial or forced into military custody. Within the United States, those accused of terrorism crimes should face charges in a civilian court consistent with our constitutional values. We appreciate that our leaders are constantly striving to make America more secure, but the indefinite detention and mandatory military custody provisions passed into law in the fiscal year 2012 NDAA do more harm than good. The Smith-Amash Amendment, if passed into law, would be an important first step towards reversing this damage. Sincerely, and is signed those generals and admirals. I'd like to submit this to you guys for the record. I echo that sentiment. Here, our Congress has had several amendments that have been offered that would repair and make sure that the rights are protected, and they keep getting put in the trash can. So that's why we are here at a local level asking you guys to stand with us and support rights to due process, and I appreciate all of your consideration. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Shirley Shelton, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here to support this resolution and to remind you that we know you've all taken oaths to protect us and to protect our Constitution. If you haven't read the NDAA, HR 1540, it would really be a good idea because we actually had some of our senators in that voted for it, thinking that there was going to be amendment following right behind it to protect the citizens, and that never happened. So I call it an accidental screwing of the people, right? But you're here and you can protect us by at least making a statement, and we would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mitra Akavon, and I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Regarding the NDAA, I love it when I forget what I'm going to say. Basically, even if you trust President Obama when he says that he will not misuse the NDAA on American citizens, please be cognizant of the fact that he won't always be president. So please consider the magnitude of that kind of power in the hands of someone whom you don't trust. So whether that be President Hillary Clinton, President Newt Gingrich, whoever it is who could potentially president who you don't trust, just please remember that they'll have access to that kind of power and they could misuse it. And that could affect you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason Nellis from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I don't have any prepared speech, but I wanted to mainly point out and reiterate what some points that have already been made, that this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. I want to bring up that this has had, this is, what do you call it? People who don't support the NDAA have been pushing this for a while. Last year, the Clark County Republican Party passed a resolution, basically, a statement against the NDAA, similar to this, and urging the sheriff to Douglas Gillespie to actually the resolution said that urging him not to declare martial law basically in the U.S. because that is what the NDAA does. Basically, it's indefinite state of martial law, and the resolution called on the sheriff to not enforce the imposition of martial law absent a declaration of war duly approved by Congress, and to publicly state that he will not aid or participate in the unconstitutional arrest, detainment, torture, assassination, or extraordinary rendition of any United States citizen in Clark County, Nevada. But as I was saying, this is not just a Republican issue. It's not just a Democrat issue. It goes beyond party lines. It's bipartisan, and anyone who supports liberty in this country and what this country stands for, and especially anyone who took an oath to defend the Constitution, should be against this and should keep fighting this until there is no law left like this. And I want to also point out the 45th Congress, second session of 45th Congress, Chapter 263, Section 15, passage here, from and after the passage of this act, it shall not be lawful to employ any part of the Army or of the United States as a posse comitatus or otherwise for the purpose of executing the laws, except in such cases and under such circumstances as such employment of said force may be expressly authorized by the Constitution or by act of Congress. And no money appropriated by this act shall be used to pay any of the expenses incurred in the employment of any troops in violation of this section, and any person willfully violating the provisions of this section shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor, and on conviction thereof shall be punished by fine not exceeding $10,000, imprisonment not exceeding 2 years, or by both such fine and punishment. So anyway, that's just one part of the Constitution that says it, and that makes clear it's a crime, and that people in the military cannot act as police and just arrest anyone and without any warrant. And it just sounds like unconstitutional. So thanks.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Jason Weinman. I'm not here to speak, in favor of this amendment and against the NDAA because I have a belief in some kind of, conspiracy or shadow government or group of malevolent people who are trying to do something to us. I'm here because the only protection that we have from even inadvertent tyranny is due process, which thankfully is protected by the Constitution and which is gutted by the NDAA. There is no person who I would trust with the power to put people in jail purely on the grounds of suspicion. And even if there's no one in the government today who would put someone in jail for dissent, there will be one day. And if the NDAA stands, there will be no protection for those dissidents. There will be no protection for anybody, even if it's not a political dissident, even if it's just a personal rival, who a person in power wants to imprison or otherwise punish. There are no protections for freedom other than the ones enshrined in the Constitution, and other than the ones protected by American law. And the NDAA nullifies all of them. That's all.
My name is John Ridgeway, 3519 One Nation Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89121. All you guys took an oath of office, support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Passing item number 38 is a step in that right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ryan Silver. I'm a Las Vegas native, a UNLV graduate, and an oath keeper. Fear, not evidence, sent 127,000 Japanese Americans to internment camps during World War II. This was an egregious violation of the rights of Americans. The provisions of the NDAA, which authorize indefinite detention of American citizens without due process of law, is a dangerous precept to repeat those inhumanities of the past. Furthermore, our founding fathers, our veterans, brave men and women from our community did not sacrifice so that we could surrender our legal and moral principles for fear of some perceived threat. I grow ever doubtful that the vision of so-called progressives is compatible with American ideals. Ironically, the NDAA is so frighteningly regressive that it purports to revert us back to a feudal system that lasted until the Magna Carta was adopted nearly 1,000 years ago. You may recall from history that this is when civilization emerged from a time commonly known as the Dark Ages. Does this sound like hyperbole? Well, I was not aware that the U.S. had declared war on its own citizens. I'm sure that the average resident of Clark County is not aware of this either. Think of our children's future. Will they be bereft of liberty? Think of your legacy as our representatives. Will you stand for freedom? Remember, your actions shape the world you must live in as well. You guys, this is not just a political pile of dead fish that you guys would do well to steer clear from. You should be thinking about your own skins as well. I mean, look how many people showed up to speak about this. This is just instinctive to be afraid of dangerous legislation like this. So, with that, I beseech you to please honor your oaths to uphold the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silver.
Good morning. Tasha Heath, Southern Nevada Watchdogs. I'm going to save my big speech for the 17th when you bring this back, but I would like to ask that you do think about this in the meantime and really do your research of what's going on. Obviously, all these people standing in line, we're not just making this stuff up. We've done our research also. And I hope that you do too. I hope that you do pass it when it comes along, and hopefully we have more of a line next time. But I fight for this for my daughter's future. I don't want her to be picked up and called a terrorist and be indefinitely detained with no evidence. Somebody could just call you a terrorist and you're gone. You disappear. They're already using this on people. And I just would like to ask you to pass this and join with the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heath.
Good day, and thank you for your time. My name is Robert Andrew. I'm just a concerned individual resident of Clark County, Nevada. I live in Las Vegas. I think it's important for the people at home and everybody to realize that the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, is actually a good bill. It's what funds our troops. It's what pays our troops' families. The problem is, in 2012 NDAA, which was signed on December 31st, 2011, on New Year's Eve, when everybody was distracted. Now, I'm not sure if this was on purposely, but we can figure this out. And what it does is they added two sections, sections 1021 and 1022, which have so vague of language that it essentially takes our right to trial away. Now, all the politicians in Washington, of course, are going to vote for the NDAA because if they don't fund the troops and their families, they're going to look bad. But they slipped that part in that takes our right to trial away, and it's up to us and our representatives on a local level, if we want to restore the future of this country and the freedoms of our children, our grandchildren, to stick up for unlawful, unconstitutional bills like this. And the problem is, in the language in the bill, they can claim a belligerent act as an act of terrorism. Well, what defines a belligerent act? If I speak out against the government on Facebook, is that a belligerent act? And they can take me away. Military can come and take me away. Do I get a lawyer? No, you don't get a lawyer. Do I get a phone call? No. No, you don't get a phone call. And they can even take you to another country under this law and indefinitely detain you for the rest of your life. And this is fact. And I advise everybody to research yourself. Don't listen to us. Please go do the research yourself. We are very concerned citizens. This is one of the most important things in this generation of the United States of America. And the bottom line is Section 1021 and 1022 of the 2012 NDAA essentially makes the United States of America a military dictatorship. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, thank you for your time. Cindy Lake, Henderson, Nevada. I'll save my long speech for next time. I would urge you all to please do your research. Read the resolution. It's benign as compared to what the actual sections 1021 and 1022 say. Please do your research, and please do not ask Congressman Joe Heck his opinion, because he disagrees that this pertains to American citizens, and we disagree with him. As active Republicans, we disagree with our Republican representative. So I would plead and beg with you to please do your research. It's taken us a long time to get to this point. Every single one of us who's spoken today is considered a terrorist for doing so under this provision, under sections 1021 and 1022, for speaking out against, when we speak out against NDAA, it sounds terrible. We're speaking out against funding the military. We're speaking out against 1021 and 1022 specifically. Please do your research, and please act on behalf of the citizens of Clark County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lake.
Good morning. My name is Dirk Tejan, Las Vegas, Nevada. First of all, I want to say, all you guys, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come down here, guys. I love you.
Okay, I've got to ask you to address us, okay, because there's a camera here that's
okay, well, I'm not quite as impressed with this council. It's obvious that you've been stonewalling this resolution, and I'm curious as to why. This is very important. And I will say that I agree with pretty much everything that's been said here. This gentleman back here, it sounds like he has some legal training. I don't know, but the only thing that I would take offense with was that he said that this law, the NDAA, Section 1021 and 1022, this was just stricken immediately as soon as they signed it. These people that are acting in defiance of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution in our federal government, they're committing treason when they write something like this. And if it flies in the face of the Bill of Rights, it's not law. It doesn't matter if it's written down somewhere, it's not law. And that's all I wanted to say. Please take a look at this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. I'll turn over to Commissioner June Kiliani.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and for your passion. I apologize because when we wrote the agenda item. I thought we were just going to discuss and vote today, but we'll have to unfortunately come back. Or if we have the support, that's your choice. But I think you got your message across to the my colleagues and myself. And I did want to correct for the record, the fluoride bill was my legislation, and it did go to a vote of the people, and they did support it in Clark County. Thank you.
Mr. Burnett, I guess we'll be bringing this back on December 17th.
One day, somebody's going to have to say enough.